Barzilai. I'm at the Albert Einstein College of Medicine in New York, and I'm a professor of medicine and genetics and the head of the Institute for Aging Research at Einstein, which is the biggest institute in the world for the biology of aging. So aging, I was interested in aging all my life. You know, they say that kids have imagination, but kids don't understand that they're going to look like their grandparents. They think their grandparents was some other species. So the biology was really interesting. It's much more interesting than knowing who has cholesterol or who has blood pressure, because aging you see. And my thought was, if you can see something, it has a biology. If it has a biology, you can target that. So I went to the field with the hope that we can find a biology and we can find something that will target it. And what happened since is we know a lot about aging, and we definitely know that we can target aging. That aging drives the diseases, and so if we can delay or stop or reverse the aging, we'll prevent, stop, and delay the diseases. I looked at aging more as a fascination than thinking that it has to be with me. But you know, when I became a doctor and went to residency in medicine, there's an attending that it wasn't enough that you introduce the patient by saying, you know, it's a 59-year-old man. You had to say if he looks younger than his age or older than his age. And then you realize that it matters, that there's this biological age and chronological age, and it matters. And this kind of gave me the idea that we have to see what are the difference between people who age rapidly and age slower, because this can be a key for discoveries. First of all, I'm running an institute for the biology of aging where we're looking at many pathways that lead to aging and are trying to stop them. So this is my daily life at the institute. I personally also have, beside lab for mice, I have a cohort of centenarians of 100 years old, 700 years old, and their families. And we're looking for longevity genes that can be applied as drugs to humans. I'm also, I have my own biotech. It's called Kobar. And Kobar is a public company that is looking at mitochondrial peptide as a treatment for age-related diseases. I'm also a medical advisor for a venture capital that's called Life Biosciences, and I'm looking for new intellectual properties, new labs that are developing drugs, and we can help them in order to bring them to the clinic. The drugs eventually will delay aspects of aging. And I'm also leading a national study that's called Taming Aging with Metformin, not only to prove the concept that aging can be stopped, but also to get an indication so that we can prevent the consequences of aging. And lastly, I'm also involved in trying to convince politicians that they have to be with us and understand that there's a longevity dividend for what we're doing. If we can stop aging, if we can start by stopping aging for 2-3 years, just a little bit, it's trillions of dollars to the economy. And it's based not only the fact that we prevent aging, but we compress the morbidity of the people. In other words, they live healthy, and they're sick for very little time at the end of their lives. So there's a huge economical benefit. I'm not talking about individual benefit, it's clear. look, maximal life expectancy for humans is about 115 years. We can, and we die now in Germany too before the age of 8. So there are 35 years that we should be able to capitalize on quite rapidly. And it'll take time, and it'll be maybe 2 years first, and then another 3 years, and it will accelerate. Can we do better than that eventually? Yeah, maybe we can do better about it, but we should start by the low-hanging fruits. Well, what I'm hoping across the world is that there'll be a new regulation that people will think of aging as something preventable, not as a disease. I really don't want aging to be a disease. I think politically it's wrong to say that, because there's ageism. Ageism in the United States is an ism that's much bigger than about women and about black people. The elderly people really suffer. They are fired, they are not hired. And to say, aging is a disease, even if you're not sick, doesn't make any sense. To make people say, well, if you're in this group, you have to go to this side of the room, it's just not fair. We don't have to do it. We have to prevent age-related disease. This is good enough, like saying aging. The word that we're using, I started using aging initially, then it sounded bad, so I started using longevity. Now longevity, people are thinking, oh, you mean I live longer, but I live longer sick? I don't want that. And I think the word that is good for us to use in the politics is health span. Okay, is being healthy. Okay, take away the fear of people from aging. The aging is bad because of the diseases. It's not so bad otherwise. So take the fear away and work about health span. And longevity can be a side effect, apologize. I think they are all in those 7 or 9 pillars or hallmark of aging that we're showing. Those are all things that contributes to aging, and they also interact with each other. And you don't necessarily have to treat all of them successfully to be successful, because sometimes when you treat one, you also treat the others. So I think this will be the approach, and there'll be more and more drugs coming from different directions, and it will be good. So I just want to say one thing. Maybe there's ageism in politics too. Okay, and I want to make one thing understood. It's not about old people only. Young people who go through chemotherapy after cancer or radiation, they get older quite rapidly. They have hypertension, cardiovascular disease, other cancers. People who have HIV, they are 10 years older than their age on average because of the treatment of HIV. People who are disabled, okay, so they cannot exercise, they cannot move, and they cannot stop eating sometimes. They need help also. I don't know if Germany ever will go to Mars, but if you want to go to Mars, on the way there, if you're not protected with those drugs, you'll get cancer or other diseases by the time you get there because of radiation. So it's wrong to look only in the elderly people to understand the benefit. There's a lot of people that will support your efforts, in my mind. One thing that I'm working in the United States is to have an act, a law, okay, for the petition to make a law. And the law says that we should support the prevention of age-related diseases, or aging, or health span, or something like that. So when it's law, it means that the regulation also have to adapt. That's the law. So they cannot say no when you come with a thing. So I think the best thing for politicians is to make a law, and I think the law is not divisive between right and left. I think it's just a make sense law, and I would say that the investment in aging versus the return is nothing. Okay, if you spend $70 million for a $7 trillion return, this is nothing. But you should start having a law and start targeting aging. So, I think what happens now is after age 60, you start to accumulate those diseases. First disease, second disease, third disease, with all those treatments, which makes it very expensive and very miserable for the patients. Okay? So, I think now that we got that everybody is becoming old, we have to shift all the resources. So, for example, in the United States, the National Institute of Health, that is really researching the diseases, they used to have only 3% of the budget goes to the National Institute of Aging. Made no sense, because 65% of the budget of the health cost goes to people over the age of 65. So it makes no sense. So you have to really shift the budget. If the healthcare budget is now 7% of the gross domestic, I don't know what it is in Germany. You have to have basically half of that go to something to have to aging, because the point is that even if you're researching heart disease or Alzheimer or diabetes or cancer, the major risk is aging. So everybody can still do their job, but find the underlying aging part as the one that is most important to prevent, because then you impact not only your disease, but the other people's disease. Well, in 20 years old, I'll be 83. So first of all, I want to see. But I want to, I want by then the 80s to be the new 60s. I think we can make a lot of progress in the next 20 years.